Hey folks, Chuck Holton here. If you were looking for the podcast today, I am actually traveling today. My first overseas trip since May of this year. And it's hard for me to believe that for a guy who normally visits 25 countries a year or so. This has been a really strange year. It doesn't mean I haven't been traveling, obviously. I think I've seen probably about 30 states across the United States this year so far. But finally am getting out and doing what I enjoy doing best, and that's traveling around the world to hot spots and bringing you the news about it from on the ground. So I'm on my way to Armenia. Right now I am in Qatar, which as we're flying in looks a lot like Tatooine from the Star Wars movies. Very desert, very bleak, very hot, but this is an absolutely massive airport. Mostly, it's mostly quiet. There's not a lot of people here, and that's probably partially because the travel is just so painful. Not only do you have to wear this mask everywhere you go, but even to get on the 13-hour plane flight from Washington to Qatar, I had to, they issued us one of those acrylic face masks that I had to wear, which was very uncomfortable. But once we got off the ground, most people just sort of did away with it, and they didn't really enforce it very much, thank heaven, because it would have been really hard to sleep with that thing on. But I think it's going to take quite some time for international travel to come back. And I wonder if anybody will ever be able to quantify the true cost of the COVID crisis around the world, not just economically, but psychologically, socially, relationally, culturally. This virus is changing the way we interact with each other. It's changing the way that we travel. It's changing the way that or even the amount of moving around that we do. And it's something that I have actually sort of thought about and actually predicted a long time ago. I remember back in 2007 saying that eventually the culture would change such that it would be considered crazy to even leave your house. That if you just extrapolate out the cultural, environmental, economic, terrorism, sickness, pandemic, that sort of thing, take all those trends and extrapolate them out and see where they meet 10, 15 years later, what you have is it becomes culturally abnormal to leave and travel because you have such good bandwidth that you can essentially visit anybody or any place from the comfort of your own home without burning a lot of fossil fuel to do it, and without exposing yourself to viruses and to terrorism and things like that. I long for the old days of travel. It was much more civilized. It was much more comfortable. And not that it's not very standardized across the globe now. It's very safe traveling internationally. It's just a pain. It's just a pain. You give up so many of your freedoms. And I hate wearing a mask. Can't stand it. Anyway, I'm on my way to Armenia to cover the crisis there, and I should be there about midnight tonight, so I wanted to let you guys know to be looking for some episodes coming up next week on the crisis in Armenia. I'm headed into the Nagorno-Karabakh region, or what they call Artsakh in Armenia, which is a place that's trying to become its own country. It's trying to become, it's been self-governing, sort of a semi-autonomous region of Azerbaijan that broke off back in the 1990s after the Civil War. And now there's a lot of violence flaring up between the Armenians who live in Nagorno-Karabakh and the rest of Azerbaijan, because the Armenians are Christian, the Azerbaijanis are, or Azeris, I guess you call them, are 94% Muslim. And so really what could be looked at as a localized regional conflict is actually more of a religious conflict that likes of what we're seeing in Afrin and places like that in Syria, but it's also a proxy conflict between two big powers in this region, Turkey and Russia. Russia is supporting Armenia. They have a mutual support agreement with Armenia, and Turkey is supporting Azerbaijan because they're both Muslim. And Russia is selling weapons to everybody, so that doesn't help. Russia actually has a military base in Armenia, so they have some vested interest there. Suffice it to say, the people who always suffer from this kind of thing are the civilians. Be praying for me over there, because specifically the Turks and the Azeris have been bombing indiscriminately, both with artillery and with drones. They've been striking anything that moves basically in that area. So vehicles, concentrations of people, there's a lot of danger there. So I brought my body armor, but just pray that I'll have discernment and wisdom, that God will send his angels to camp around me. The Bible says that he sends his angels to camp around those who fear him. Psalm 34:7. And so I'm praying that prayer for me. Anyway, thanks for being a part of the Hot Zone. We got a lot of good content coming, so stay tuned this week, and we'll see you soon. Bye.